Hi, this is a quick movie to explain and to announce that Fraps 3.5.0 has been released. This is quite a big update for Fraps. Finally, it adds support for OpenDML/AVI files, and what that allows us to do is to have movie files that are above 4 GB in size. One of the major massive headaches of using Fraps, and there are a number of them, but the number one cause of headaches was the fact that Fraps insisted on adhering to the AVI 1.0 support, and what that meant was that it would split a movie when you're recording it at the 4 GB limit each and every time. If you're recording for a long time, you would have a number of these files that you would then have to combine together somehow, and it was a real pain in the ass. And for a lot of people that use Fraps and were a little bit technically minded, they couldn't understand why it was that it did this, because the OpenDML standard has been around since 1996. It's been a long time coming for Fraps. The other reason why it couldn't do that was an issue with the file system. On a FAT32 file system, the largest file size you can have is also 4 GB. So, but who uses FAT32 and who cares about AVI1 support? Nobody, basically, because since at least 2001, the consumer OS of choice, Windows XP, has had NTFS support, and out of the box I believe it came with support for AVI files larger than 4 GB. Windows XP was released in 2001, we're now in 2012. Beeper, you are slacking. And for a product that a lot of people have paid for, it just was not good enough. And for me, it was not good enough. So what do I use? I use a product called Bandicam, and now I'm going to show you a direct comparison of what Bandicam can do versus what the latest and in air quotes greatest version of Fraps can do. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to take a game that I'm playing at the minute, which I know is very intensive on your PC. That is Guild Wars 2. It's the open beta weekend. Seems like a good opportunity to compare the two products. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a recording for 1 minute of exactly the same scene against both products, Fraps 3.5 and the latest version of Bandicam. And I'm going to compare you the image quality, the file size, or rather the video bitrate that we're getting, and also the amount of CPU that those captures are taking, or rather the impact on the FPS in-game. So let's start with Fraps. This will be our benchmark. A lot of people use Fraps, and I'm sure they're probably wondering, or they've probably been pulling their hair out going, what other alternatives have we got out there? Okay, so for Fraps, this file, 1 minute in length, was 2 GB in size, running at a total of 745 and 84 kilobit per second. That's quite large. Okay, so 2 gig a minute really. We've not got a lot going on in this scene. We've got the odd person walking past, but not a massive amount. In terms of CPU, this scene running at full detail in game was running at about 35 frames a second prior to recording, and it dropped to about 25 frames a second whilst recording. So we're going to be getting some drop frames here because I'm recording at 30 frames a second. Okay, let's take a look at Bandicam. Now Bandicam actually gives you the option of a number of different video codecs that you can use. There's 3 that are really viable alternatives. You've got MPEG-1, which surprisingly is the one that's showing now. You would have thought MPEG-1, an ancient codec, would look like shit. Actually it doesn't. Option number 2, Motion JPEG. Again, quite an old codec, not really used that much these days. And the third option, for quality really, is YV12. It does also support a couple of other codecs. It supports Xvid natively, so you can upload direct to YouTube. It also supports RGB. Fraps also supports RGB as well, which is essentially lossless video capture. So the stats for the MPEG-1 are just up on the screen. It comes out at a ridiculous 122 meg for the same minute of video. Quality is... it's not quite as good, to be fair, but it's still very, very good for the file size. It is the most CPU intensive of all the codecs we look at though. It does have an impact of about 12 frames per second. Okay, moving on to the second of the Bandicam codecs, Motion JPEG. This time the same scene, 1 minute in length, 1080p, 30 frames a second. came out at 1.85 gig, so a little bit shy of Fraps. Video bitrate of 262,925 kilobit per second. Again, very similar to Fraps' performance in this one. The impact and frame rate was 10 frames a second again. This is the closest to performance overall to Fraps 3.5. So at this point you're probably going, okay, that's very well and good. You've got one option which comes out much smaller, but takes up a little bit more CPU, and you have a slight loss in quality, and you have one which is almost on par to Fraps. What's the big deal about Bandicam? Bandicam's biggest benefit, if you're recording Let's Plays or just any kind of video footage where you're doing live commentary over the top, is that it can capture the in-game audio to one audio stream and your microphone input to another audio stream, and that allows you to edit them both independently. So I'm gonna show you how that works in my video editing software of choice, Vegas. Okay, so here we are in Windows. This is the folder that I've chosen Bandicam to use to store all of my Guild Wars 2 captures. And I'm just going to drag, this is an 18 gig file, it's just over an hour in length, and we're going to drag that into Vegas. Now, normally it will need to go through and pre-calculate the audio peak files. I've done that automatically, you don't need to see that in this video. That takes a little while, but that's just the problem with Vegas. You get that issue in Fraps as well. The thing to note, the bigger the video file, because the audio is captured with the video, so the bigger the video file you've got, the longer that's going to take. So on a short file, an 18 gig file for an hour, that's going to be a lot quicker than if you were using Fraps for an hour, for example. Okay, because that's going to be 120 gig in size. But what we see here in Vegas, we've got two audio tracks. The one at the top is the in-game sound. So if we might not be able to hear that too well. And the one at the bottom is me rambling like an idiot. Pretty intense. We were doing... Okay, so the good thing about that is we can actually edit these together. If there's a bit where I smack my lips quite a lot, I probably won't be able to find a place where I've done that now, but we can just go through and either cut that bit out, or if it's too quiet like this bit here, we can just bump the volume up. So that goes to show you the kind of stuff you can do with having two audio tracks is actually pretty cool. It allows you a lot more freedom in editing. It allows you to redub things later if you've stammered a little bit. That's another thing I tend to do. Or if you want to cut out swearing, for example, or any background noise. It gives you a lot of flexibility. Now, it should be noted that Bandicam isn't the only product on the market that does this. There is another product called Dxtory, which I hear is also very good. Dxtory offers a lot of the same flexibility as Bandicam, but I believe it allows you to save audio and video to different hard disks. So let's just recap some of the main issues that people have with Fraps or have had in the past. The splitting the file size at 4 gig is now gone by default in Fraps 3.5. The video codec it uses is quite efficient, the quality is good, but the file size is ridiculous. So think about the impact on you as somebody that's going to be recording a lot of game footage using Fraps. First off, you're going to need quite a fast hard disk, and also you're going to need a lot of hard disk space to put that on. Like I mentioned, 120 gig for about an hour of footage, versus Bandicam. MPEG-1 codec is quite CPU intensive, a slight drop in quality. It's hardly noticeable when you're uploading to YouTube, and because YouTube re-encodes anyway. But in terms of the hard disk performance, because it's saving so little, it's not an issue. But it does give us that flexibility to save audio and video to separate tracks, or to have two different audio tracks that we can edit at a later date. Now, I find that absolutely invaluable. And I record a lot of stuff. I've got a lot of hard disk space, but it does still get filled up with content that I need to go through and edit together. So I wouldn't be able to do that with Fraps. I just would not have the space to do that. So the choice is yours. I just wanted to put this video out, give you a fair comparison between the two products. I've used them both. There are some other issues with Fraps that I've encountered. I'm not sure whether they're known issues, but such as Vegas. I get a lot of video corruption when I'm editing for a little while in Vegas, to the point where I have to keep restarting Vegas. Sometimes video won't even show up in the project until I restart. Also, the color space seems to be, even though I've mentioned the color space used on each of the 3 codec comparisons there, they're all using YUV. For some reason, Fraps always comes out much darker, and I have to go through and autocorrect it, which when I'm then having to render out makes the render go a lot slower as well. So there you go, my little comparison. If there's anything you want to ask me about both products, because I've used them both quite a lot in the past, or if you just want to see what Bandicam with Motion JPEG 1 codec is like, just look at the most recent videos on my channel. They're all encoded with Bandicam MPEG 1, and I'm really happy with the amount of time that it's saving me. Okay, see you next time.